Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Titanic Talks. It is Monday, May 10th, and it is a beautiful, beautiful day here in Texas. I hope you're doing very well. How was your weekend? Did you have a good weekend? I hope you did. I had a wonderful past couple of days. We on Friday for our channel members here, we had a very exciting episode that I enjoyed very much, and I'm feeling really next level actually right now. Things are really moving with the world, it seems, and it's pretty. It's relieving, I guess you might say, being able to really be working again and eating. I went to a tapas restaurant, Spanish restaurant, and it was absolutely incredible. And sometimes just a nice meal with great people can just make your whole month. And this weekend that was the case. I had a very, very fun time and met up with some friends and did a little bit of dancing. If you can believe that, and if you've seen any of my music videos, you know I like to cut a rug. and that was very exciting for me. There's a lot of really cool music-related stuff that I'm starting to do with video, and it'll all live here on this channel. I'll put them up. I think maybe this week will be the first one that I do, but with the conversations with the channel members here, we have, if you become a member, just click the join button. And we run polls and have a community tab that's for the members only. And we've been having a conversation about, what might be interesting. What do y'all want to see? Because I have a bunch of ideas and for other videos that I want to do right here on this channel. And I realized that there is a significant amount of interest about music production and particularly how I do it. And for this kind of being my career for the entirety of my adult life, really, I've come to realize there's a significant amount of little tips and tricks that I've learned and implement daily that I've never really talked about or put out there. And I think, for the first one, I want to do kind of a deep dive into like how I get sounds. And that's 50 videos right there. But, particularly with like synthesizers, or maybe the sound of my bass guitar. I over the past couple of years have become incredibly invested in becoming better at bass guitar. That was one of those things that, as someone who usually, has to play all the instruments myself when I'm working on some music, out of necessity, early on, if I wanted a song to sound like a song, and have live or played by a human bass guitar, I kind of like, well, I can play guitar, so I guess I can play bass. And after years of doing that, I realized that it is a completely different animal. And so some of those kind of philosophies inside of performance and things that I've learned from people much more talented than I, but have helped to get things to sound a little bit better. I think there's probably a good amount of interesting information in there. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to doing that. And it's been pretty fun kind of figuring out what that will look like. Because even putting these together, as simple as these videos are, just a camera, and a light. Although I've added a reflector for anyone who's noticed that this side of the face is probably for those who are just listening to this. I'm bouncing the light from the softbox here back to portray a somewhat less moody atmosphere. Because even though it's only been a couple months of doing these videos, they started off, I think, a little bit moody. I think maybe that's kind of where I was at in life. And, I was kind of thinking about it the other day when I was going through and doing like the color grade on one of these recent videos. And I noticed like how much brighter it was. And I kind of thought like, man, I wonder if they were like so moody, like from the jump, because I wanted to be in the darkness. I wasn't comfortable enough talking, but like talking to camera, and it's funny kind of to see now that there's hours and hours and hours of these on the internet now, and as you kind of scroll through, they tend to get a little bit brighter. And I have to say, I'm feeling a lot more confident doing these and feeling a lot more comfortable, and because I didn't know how it would be received, so that was kind of like something that I have been thinking about. I had a very, very interesting revelation watching the HBO series about hustlers. I think I'll have to check and see what that's called, but there's a very fascinating show, and I believe it's new. And the name of it is Generation Hustle. And there was kind of a profound moment while watching it. Really, it's just about scammers, really, and kind of like the typically sociopathic mentality behind people who scam their way to either monetary or I guess success in the public sphere. And I was kind of like watching it in the background and making dinner. I've been cooking a lot more recently, coming up with the new dishes that I'm excited about. And as I'm cooking, I'm kind of like talking out loud, as my girlfriend was watching it as well. And I was kind of like saying, "Oh, this is gonna happen. Oh, this is gonna happen. Oh, that person's a sociopath." Like, and kind of like we're like 3 episodes deep, and she kind of like looks at me. She's like, "How do you know all this stuff?" And it's like, "Oh, because I I spent a long time in Hollywood." It's really fascinating if you watch it because, like the one episode is the scam is basically. They prey upon people who have big hopes and dreams and basically get them to pay a bunch of money with promises of, we want to make a movie from your idea or, whatever it is. And the whole time I'm just like, oh man, these people need a manager. Because that's kind of, and really that's what I gathered from it, this is something I've known for years, but it's something you don't really hear a ton about from people of celebrity. I mean, any sort of public figure, particularly in entertainment, but even outside of entertainment, there's almost usually a power player manager behind the scenes. And really, they kind of are the ones that are calling the shots, or making things happen. And in my career, I just got very, very, very lucky to have worked with some incredible managers. And it's a lot of the time, what I've seen over and over and over again is, an artist will get to a certain level of success, and they want to break through to that next level because, everybody always wants more, especially in Hollywood. And I think it's an easy, if you're delusional about your own image and where you truly are in the world as a public figure, if you're delusional enough and certainly sociopathic enough, it's always someone else's fault, and typically, they tend to put the blame on the manager, and you see it all the time with, I mean, it's happened with some of the biggest stars in the world. With they just drop, and then it's very interesting because you can kind of look back, especially some of the bigger acts that you just kind of think like, wow, you were on top of the world. What happened? A lot of the time, they switch managers, and I get it. Sometimes, if there's like a early on and like a younger artist, let's say maybe you're just, well, these days it would be something you do goes viral on the internet, which is when all the managers start coming to you, because if you've got something that's got like millions of plays, for example, a video or maybe a music video or something like that, the managers are going to want to swoop in first if they really have their ear to the streets and they're like looking to see kind of like, oh, what's the next big thing, as they say. And the move would be to, the manager, at least if it's like a predatory situation, sign them to some sort of deal. Usually if they gauge out like, oh, this person has no idea how the system works, they'll sign them to like a development deal or something like that. And then upstream them, get them a record deal, which then they'll get, usually it's about 20% for, upon signing for that first advance, and they'll get 20%. And for the managers, it's kind of usually, they're going to have multiple artists that they sign. So their strategy is kind of just like, well, as long as one of these kind of happens, it makes it worth it. But if you're the artist, the artist always wants full attention from the managers, right? And that's just not the case. That's not the way it works. Unless you are in a very unique position, which we call those unicorns. But for the thousands and thousands of agents, managers, all the labels, and then all of the people with big hopes and dreams, they want to be the next big thing, and a lot of times they'll end up being blinded by that light, or the potential of the spotlight, and they'll say, well, yeah, I'll just sign it. And though there are good people out there, I've been lucky, but I've also, way too many times have I heard the same story, really, from very talented people who just got absolutely burned because that's one thing I think um, could be very helpful for especially like young people who are maybe thinking about making that move out to Hollywood, and to do it and go for it. I get it. I when I went, I was convinced like I'm writing like the best songs, and I'm gonna work harder than anyone else, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna be a star. But what I didn't quite realize, and I wish someone kind of would have told me, because there was a lot of, I was delusional, I would say. Now I was able to do very well and get myself to a point where, life is comfortable. But I think there was just a lot of things that happened. I spent a lot of time, scratching my head, being like, how is this happening? It felt like I won the lottery a lot of the time. Like, though I worked very hard, it was just like, well, this just seems a little insane, seems too good to be true. But I wish someone would have like sat me down and be like, hey, just good luck, work hard, try your best, write 1,000 more songs, because it's never going to hurt you as a recording artist or as a songwriter. It's never going to hurt you to just keep writing more, even when you don't feel like doing it, but also be conscious of the fact that there are also thousands of other people who are saying and thinking the exact same thing you are right now. And, make sure your skin is thick and your spine is, make sure you have one. Or if you don't have a spine, hopefully your hustle and your scam is enough to get you by until you're, exposed. And that was just, that was something I saw a lot of. One of the episodes, in the show was a girl who was kind of like this like New York socialite, and allegedly she claimed to be an heiress, like a German heiress, to some sort of extreme wealth. And I was just like, wow, I personally know like several. I've heard that story so many times. You're at the Chateau Marmont, or one of these hip places, and someone gets introduced, and nice to meet you, and then someone's like, oh yeah, they're from this family or this or that. And I'm like, okay. And I have a bridge that I'd like to sell you. Though there, because that's kind of the thing. In my experience, could be wrong about this, but the truly like incredibly wealthy, they're not out there driving Lamborghinis. Yeah. Tends to be a certain amount of modesty involved in that, the real world. But if you're kind of like selling the idea for clout or fame or whatever, and announcing it, that's when I get very kind of skeptical. But it's hilarious, watching shows like that, and you see all these people who, they got burned bad. It's just that the world, that whole, socialite world. I mean, it's fun. I get it. It's, and you're always gonna feel when you're being welcomed to sit at the table, it feels good. Like it's just it's all there is to it. You know, we as people, we want to be accepted, and especially when there's like an exclusive like, and usually it's like self-proclaimed, you know, exclusive social circle, and you know, it's there's definitely like this thing of like, oh, I'm that makes me feel important, and I don't know. I think that kind of just got to, well, it definitely got to my head, and the a lot of people kind of that I was around, it really got, you know, to their heads, and I started noticing like, and no judgment, by the way. I know this is probably coming across as like preachy and annoying, but I'm just like relating it to the show because if you watch the show, you know, it's a it's 100% accurate. And I think the producers of the show and the way it's made, they did a fantastic job of, you know, just showing like, hey, this is what it's like. And I just haven't really seen a show like that before. So I enjoy it very much. It was highly relatable. I started noticing at a certain point though, I would start having conversations with like the waiter that were more engaging than, you know, some of these events, or yeah, a lot of the times I would really get more captivated talking to like the agents and the publicists who were there. Which I guess, you know, there's a certain amount. It's always kind of weird to me, and continues to be weird, where it's like I don't really necessarily know exactly to this day like where I stand. You know, people always want to like the whole so what do you do conversation. It's like, well, you know, well, it's Monday. What am I doing today? And for a long time, people thought that I was a manager, but that's not. I've never managed an artist. It's just not really in my wheelhouse. I don't really feel comfortable because there's just that's a different kind of hustle. I like to make stuff, and I like to. I'm the most comfortable behind the camera and behind, I guess, the computer making music, and sometimes there's like I would feel at times almost like a liaison or kind of an artist representative. That's probably the best way of saying it. Because just behind the scenes, there's so many things. There's a lot of big things that happen because of a dinner. And they always say like, you know, the biggest deals in the world are made on the golf course. That's why it's so funny when people always clown on usually it's the president. For some reason the media just has this idea. It's always like X president, or XYZ president it's been 100 days and they've spent this many days on the golf course. It's like, you do realize like being on the golf course, it's not just like playing a game and that's it. Like, it's usually there's like a healthy kind of like competition, but that's where the deals are made. And it just depending, a lot of people golf. I'm not a huge golfer, but I've seen a similar thing like with dinners, right? And suddenly you're having dinner with someone who is an influential person who can make things happen, basically. And hey, dinner went really well. We had a really good time. We like each other. Let's work together. And there's just a huge amount of that. I would say that of all of the things I've done so far, there is probably an equal amount of that social element that I would contribute to the cool things in life that I've been able to do, because the making songs, making videos, part of it, that's one element. And that's why especially the most perplexing part about the industry, for me at least, was seeing all of these incredibly gifted and talented people that would just conduct themselves in a way that the powers that be take note and say, nah, that's a liability. We're not gonna, I don't care if they wrote the next Bohemian Rhapsody. We're still gonna have to deal with them. And there's just a considerable amount of head scratching I've done as someone who was kind of on all sides of the production. But my focus was always I guess creative directing, and with that is building a brand. And I know for the punk rockers and the purist artists who may be watching this, you're probably all collectively cringing, but I hate to break it to you, it's kind of the name of the game. And I would also argue, like, even like the Ramones, like, come on, like, maybe they weren't using the term like personal brand, but come on. We all, from the jump, punk rock was a hugely image-based thing. The music, that's a different conversation. But without the image of punk wouldn't exist, right? And whether it's, I don't know, Ramones, Sex Pistols, like all that kind of stuff. My philosophy was always like, well, at least I'll admit, like, that's the, if you're in a band, you are responsible, or whether consciously or not, if you're in a band, you are a brand. And I never saw that as a bad thing, because my earliest fascination was with the industry itself. Now, the love, the passion, the obsession was music, and for whatever reason, I've just always had this inexplicable fascination with what makes a song catchy, which is always kind of funny when I see all these comments, on my videos, and they're like, "Oh, I don't like him," or "He sucks, but he writes great music." It's like, well, okay, fair enough. I'm working on myself, but definitely working on being able to write music too. But really, from the jump, and that's something I would recommend, because a lot, I would say this, for the stuff that I've worked on that has been successful, imagine it without the imagery. Imagine it without any of the videos associated. Then you're just stuck with songs and, maybe a couple interesting photos and a couple cool music videos. But there's so much in between. And that was always what fascinated me, is like the mythology, because it's like to me, it's always been, and really it continues to be with the new stuff that I'm working on. There's a lot that goes into, like, I always saw it as like the Wizard of Oz. That was always the analogy. Behind the curtain, the great and powerful Oz is just some dude pulling a bunch of levers. It's just such a timeless, amazing metaphor for at least entertainment. But I would always ask myself, before anything I did had any sort of, before anyone was like watching anything, it was always just like, well, what do I want to see? I don't want to see my favorite artist eating cereal in the morning. Hey guys, what's up? Because I would always say, like, you would never see David Bowie or Michael Jackson or whoever, like any of these like mega stars. You would never see them at home just doing normal things. That's why now, Madonna, who's one of my favorite artists of all time, it's just like, I kind of have to like pretend like the past probably almost 20 years now didn't exist, because it's just not, to me, the type of things that I like. There's no mystery and there's no magic to that. And I think that's why some of the things worked that I was doing, because it's just like, well, let's just do the complete opposite of this oversharing of real life. Like, let's just lean in 100% the other direction, and hopefully people will like ask questions like, who's this? Why are like this is different. This is interesting. But all of that kind of came from reading books about really boring business stuff. I've had some really good mentors in my life, and people much older and successful than me who I would ask them, like, hey, like, how'd you do it? And most of the time I was recommended books. And one I recommend to everyone, and I'll recommend it here. Read Purple Cow. I can't remember if I've already talked about this, but that's pretty much most of my inspiration for how to make something interesting, or some would say how to make something go viral, to use one of my least favorite terms. But if you're interested in doing that, read Purple Cow. You could read it in, one sitting, easy. And depending on your level of how interested up until this point you've been in branding and marketing, I think that book really nails it on the head. And I always kind of use those principles to, at least when it came to defining what makes something interesting, particularly on YouTube or whatever. Which clearly this is not the platform that I'm implementing any of that. It's literally just me talking to a camera. But I know people are fascinated by that. And now that I'm like, coming clean about everything, and the stuff that I'm doing now, it's just in such a different realm. And my hope is that there's someone out there right now watching this who will read that book and get inspired and make something cool and new, because I always like looking for cool new stuff to pay attention to and watch, because that's why we do this stuff, is so people can be entertained, and usually making it is entertaining as well. It's just we're in a really interesting time now, where the process of that is equally entertaining to me, at least. And I am finding that that's kind of become more of a trend. It's less about watching the movie. Now the behind the scenes is just as interesting, right? And I almost wish, well, it was a different time when I first started doing this stuff, but I wish I would have had more behind the scenes footage. But that was always a very, very frowned upon, you know. That would be written into contracts, actually. No behind the scenes and on the call sheets for everything, big bold letters, no social media posting. Because it was you don't necessarily always want to reveal the magic trick. So time and place, and where I'm at now, and why I'm comfortable like talking about the magic tricks. It's because now the stuff that I'm doing, it's like where it's such a new concept of entertainment that even I haven't fully wrapped my head around it. We're just inventing an entirely new way of making music and media, and it's very inspiring because there's a level of comfort when, well, really, I would look at it in two ways. There's development, and then there's production. And I could tell probably, I guess, about 2 years ago, and you can see it in the work I was putting out. You know, it's like you can only do the same thing over and over and over so many times, and the audience is only gonna want that. You know, after a while, it's kind of like, oh, it's like this is the thing. This is the thing that they do, and even as a viewer, you just kind of get to the point of just like, okay, yeah, I get it, and I would say, yeah, probably about 2 years ago is when I started to just feel this kind of itch of like wanting to reinvent and not necessarily start over, but I wanted to feel that excitement of a startup or starting something new. Because okay, and we're back. Technical difficulty. But what I wanted to say was one of the best pieces of advice that I ever received was from a mentor of mine who was incredibly kind, generous, and successful, and generous with his sharing his experience. And really, if there's one person that's been an inspiration for making videos like this, it's him. And I was lucky enough to be very young and working at his company, and he would give lectures to all of these MBA students, so people who are going to school for business at these very prestigious universities. And I was making these videos, so it was just hours and hours and hours of him kind of telling his story, and I kind of took notes of like that was my business school, right? And I just right place at the right time. Yeah, I owe a lot to him. And but he said something interesting once. He said, reinvent yourself every 2 years. And I remember just being, I was probably like 18 or 19 at the time when I, heard him say that. And I was just like, that seems completely insane. Meanwhile, this is like one of the most successful people I have ever met. And And he was right. And I think I had kind of come to a point just a couple years ago where, like, the writing was kind of on the wall, like that ship has sailed. And like the things that I had like set out to do initially had happened. I remember thinking like if somehow I get to go to like if I get to go overseas, really that was it. Like if my work brings me overseas, and I had kind of these goals. Like I had this dream of going to Sundance, well, that happened. And I had a dream, I think anyone who makes music, at least music that they want to share with the world, because I get it. There's plenty of people who just make music and that's it, and that's cool too. By all means, I get it. But I had kind of this like list of things I wanted to achieve, having something that was nominated for a Grammy. Like that was a thing as a kid I dreamed of. It's like, wow, well, that happened too. And I guess like thinking about this idea of reinventing yourself, when I got to a point where the thing that I'd worked so hard on, that chapter of life had closed. And I just kind of sat there thinking like, what am I going to do? Because I had really put everything. They say don't put all your eggs in one basket. And it's like, well, lesson learned. Diversify. But it really had me thinking about what can I do and what should I do next. And I've always been very, or at least I've tried my hardest to be up to date with technology. Because it could be argued that the things in the past that I did that were successful, right place at the right time, and really, I like there's things I've worked on that were literally the result of me trying out a new camera that just turned into something way bigger than I thought it would. But the genesis of that was me being very frustrated with, well, everything in life, but really with creativity and career and all that stuff. And I finally kind of just got to that point of like, this new camera technology that came out, like I'm finally going to I'm going to learn. I'm just going to do it. And because of that, a whole new world opened up. And so when I finally had the time to start the things that I had been wanting to do, but was afraid of, or wasn't allowed to do, like it was daunting. And another thing that that same man taught me, which was probably the best piece of advice I've ever received in my life in regards to business or career. He said, you got to jump off the cliff and figure that parachute out on the way down. And that transformed my life. there are so many instances in life where that just, anytime I was scared, like, oh, am I making the right move, or is this going to work? I just always think, well, I'm on the way down. Like, time to figure out that parachute, buddy. And in this case, with kind of the new big project thing that I've been developing for over a year now, at first I didn't even realize I had a parachute on. And then I realized, like, oh, this new type of parachute, no one's familiar with. And then I realized I need to figure out a new way to improve the parachute. And luckily, at the point it's at now is the parachute has finally just deployed. And now it's like, okay, let's find a nice spot to land. Because we live in a different world now. 2021, the technology is getting out of control. And I think it's crucial to just keep learning. Figure out the parachute on the way down. And it's almost like rock climbers, or there's always that next, the bigger mountain to climb. And it's kind of been like a series of climbing mountains, and then realizing once you get to the top of the mountain, you're like, oh, there's another one out there in the distance. How am I going to get down? Oh, I got to jump off that cliff, figure out the parachute, and then get to that next mountain. And so the jumps have just been bigger, and I think that's why I'm so excited now, because especially these past couple of weeks, just really realizing after a little bit over a year of kind of developing all this new stuff that I'll be putting out. It's just such a sense of relief. It's just like, oh, it's gonna work. If people like it, that's a whole different story. We'll find out about that. But I think the important part is I'm having so much fun, and in my brain in kind of figuring out like the story and everything, and the technology, and it's just very inspiring. It's a very inspiring time, and that's all I can say. And the freedom now of while working with a very positive team of people, that's new for me. And that's just something I really have learned to appreciate. Because I do think that when the thing you're making is, if the impetus of the thing you're creating is coming from a pure, honest, and enthusiastic place, as opposed to bitter or, negative, kind of hippy-dippy moment here, but I do think that intention is remarkably important and influential. And that is something that is relatively new to me. And I've only, in the past year, focused on positive intentions fully for the things that I'm working on. And lo and behold, that just starts to kind of permeate the entire the foundation, and it permeates all, the people around it, and the people around you. And I wish I understood or knew why that took me so long to get. But as we go along in this wild ride of real life, maybe we're not supposed to know. And maybe we're just supposed to acknowledge and just say, hey, well, it is what it is. Like this is life. And we just need to keep on learning. Because I've been just set in my ways, whether it's from a production standpoint or philosophies on life, opinions about music. I mean, I think a lot of it was because of, well, your environment will really influence that, right? If you're around people who are just super, super negative, and that's kind of the main thing that they're putting out into the universe. Something as simple as like a new artist comes out, before even giving them a shot, just shooting it down, and that can kind of rub off on everyone. And I used to find a lot of humor in that cynicism, and I would definitely excuse that as like, yeah, just like, oh, it's funny, like, poo-pooing on something. And then just after long enough, it's just like, hey man, maybe it's time to focus on the positive. And I know there's plenty of people who they learned that one a long time ago, and cheers to you, by all means. And I have my moments of cynicism, for sure, but I'm catching myself a lot these days, because I have been humbled. No doubt about that. I have taken some L's, but I gotta say, being on the other side of it now, that L has led to an even bigger L, which is learning. But it's true. Learned a lot navigating through this whole world of putting things on the internet. And interestingly enough, it just leads to more sparks of creativity. Life is weird. I'm also this is kind of a pivot here, but man, this crypto stuff's really fun. I literally have been in since like, I think 2014 is when I got in. So I've been, and a bunch of people ask me like what my exit strategy is, or I'm holding. I've been holding for years, and Yeah, buying dips and holding. That's all there is to it. Call me simple, or call me crazy. I've heard that one before. But it has been this Dogecoin stuff is really, it's fascinating. And as of right now, or as of this morning, I mean, it's hilarious to me. Probably people who got in last week, and they're seeing 50 cents, and they're saying, referring to that as a crash. It's like, what? 50 cents. Like a month ago, it was like 7 cents. And 4 months ago, yeah, it's sorry, I don't know how much interest people have in cryptos here, but it's been particularly these past like 2 weeks, it's just been lucrative, to say the least. But if anyone here who got in early, congrats. And a lot of questionable buys I had have turned out to be significantly exciting. So, which just it just makes life even more confusing in a good way. At this point, like nothing surprises me. And allegedly they're sending Doge to the moon, literally. I knew that was going to happen. The Doge father. Pretty funny. Funny stuff. Stories I wish I could tell, but really funny stuff. So musically, I have been, I've actually been mixing a lot lately for new artists that I'm working with, and I am having such a fun time doing it. I'm so used to just recording everything myself, mixing everything myself, but to have someone else just send you the project file and just give it a mix. I'm really enjoying that, and I really want to do more of it. I was always so confused when I first started getting into the music industry. I was really confused by like a lot of people, producers that I was working with. I would kind of be just, yeah, like, why are you so excited about doing mixes? And I didn't get it, but now I understand that you can really kind of put your stamp on it. And I would love to figure out a way where we can, where I could have, if you make music, have me mix it. We'd have to figure out a way to kind of get that to work, because it's always a weird thing, like finding out like what the value in kind of like spending time on something. There's got to be a way. Maybe I'll do Dogecoin mixes. That could be funny. But the artist that I'm working with, I mean, he's just a fascinating writer, and I'm focusing a lot more on vocal production, because that was something I kind of always would just have my channel strip of sounds that I like, and apply them to whoever. But in this case, I'm like, oh wow, like there's a poetry element to this that I'm really enjoying, and I think that there's some cool directions that could be taken. And we were having a conversation yesterday, actually, just about precisely that. Actually, working within genres that I'm not extremely familiar with. And I think that lends itself to this idea of just staying on your toes, being uncomfortable, forcing yourself to learn. Because when you finally get it right, that's when that sigh of relief happens. That's where the excitement kind of comes from. And I'm kind of in learning mode right now, and I think that hopefully will influence these videos I want to do about just kind of like showing how I do it, because I think that'll help me learn. They always say like the best way to learn something is to teach it. And anytime I learn like a new technique, and at least get familiar enough and capable enough to get it to where you're comfortable to explain it, at least explain how you do it. I think that's something that we could have a lot of fun with here on this here YouTube channel. And I'm going to start kind of like making more clips as I find people, not everyone wants to watch like an hour-long thing. So yeah. It's a weird time. Weird time, isn't it? I guess it's always kind of a weird time. I guess I didn't really tell many stories in this one, did I? Watching that HBO show really just threw me for a loop. I honestly kind of brought back a lot of bad memories, actually, because I haven't been around scammers in a while. A good friend of mine once told me another good piece of advice, actually. He told me once, remove the vampires from your life. And and I was told that at a time where I really needed it. And that just got me thinking about kind of the whole idea about the mythology of Dracula, the mythology of a vampire. And much like how Disney kind of leans towards the fairy tale element, the stories that you could tell a million different ways. What does Vonnegut say? Like the story of Cinderella, you could find a new way to tell that exact same story, and you're always gonna find an audience and be successful with that. But the opposite side of that coin would be the story of the vampire, who quite literally suck the life out of you. Pretty interesting stuff. At some point, there was a certain point where someone kind of came up with the idea of, and I'm sure it's probably sprung up from some folktale, but these the vampiric nature, I guess, the life-sucking nature of the ultimate bad guy or bad girl, because it's true. I never actually read Dracula. I've seen all the movies and, you know, I always really liked Interview with a Vampire. I thought that was really well done. That could be another good recommendation of something to watch. I guess it's a little. They incorporate elements of kind of like the lore, but I always thought that one was really kind of intriguing, very very 90s vibe. But that could be maybe maybe I'll rewatch that one too. It seems like a good idea. And I'm trying to think of like music. My most recently played music. I have been listening to. Oh boy, have I been? It's another one of those weird weeks where I've just kind of been working on my own stuff. So it's like I've been only listening to the same song like 30,000 times and kind of mixing along. Really, I've been listening to the radio. Modern country radio I've been listening to, and I have been finding it hilarious. Although I did go to get groceries and they were playing the Cranberries, which I've always loved them since I was a kid. And the song Linger, it's just so good. I love that melody. You know I'm such a fool for you. You got me wrapped around your finger. It's so fun to sing. And I would recommend checking out the Cranberries. Some good old-fashioned Irish music. And as an Irish man, I appreciate a great melody and great songwriting. And as you know, I have not been reading a lot, but got to come clean because these videos are all about telling the truth here. Going to tell you something very true. I found out they remastered the original Halo. Well, apparently they did this years ago. Your boy wasn't wasn't playing games, playing video games at least. And they have the Master Chief Collection. If you're a gamer, you are probably well aware of this. And I have probably spent, in life, I've probably spent more time, probably Super Smash Bros. Melee for GameCube. I think that's probably the most time I've ever spent. I love how everyone, when they talk about Smash, they're like, I'm the best. And I would love to challenge a lot of these kind of, especially YouTube people, they're always talking about how good they are at Smash. It's like, maybe. I play with Link. I'm not one of these, Kirby or Jigglypuff people. Anyway, no, but I played video games my entire life obsessively. Smash I got really into, but Halo, the original Combat Evolved, I played all of them up until 4, and then that's kind of when I got out of games. But as I get kind of actually back into it again, because I love to play games when I'm working on music, and I'll just kind of like loop and come up with new melodies and zone out, or listen to a mix. It's nice to just either be driving or like playing a game or something. But playing a game that's like 20 years old or over 20 years old and just picking it right back up and just like, I haven't lost it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little ashamed of that, but also, I thought it was pretty funny. And it is weird kind of like going back and playing a lot of those maps, like being in Blood Gulch, if you're familiar with Blood Gulch. It's weird because now, as we've kind of grown up with video games, it's almost like being in a neighborhood that I haven't been in a very long time. And now it's kind of like higher resolution, and they've remastered the games and everything, but that muscle memory is still there. Kind of a weird thing, but that kind of had me thinking about, man, I wonder how much time in my life I spent playing Halo. And that has started again because this Master Chief Collection has got all the games I love, and you can decide what version you want to play. And I found there's a lot of people who are still playing the first one that came out. So I've been having fun with that, actually. That's pretty exciting. And it helps me to kind of zone out when I just need to take 10 minutes to not think about work. So that's been really exciting for me. What else? I mean, I've spent a lot, all the Zelda games, obviously, but I mean, Breath of the Wild, that was like the whole reason I got a Switch. And I think I only have 2 more shrines to find. But that was my airplane game. I would play that in Rocket League every time I was on an airplane, which was a lot. And yeah, for whatever reason, I just kind of associate that game with airplanes. And then obviously, yeah, Fortnite. I that's probably up there for. I was thinking of maybe streaming some game stuff because there's a part of me that's like, whenever I sit down to play a game as a 34-year-old man, I'm just kind of like, is this the best use of your time? Maybe I should. Maybe if I like streamed it, that would be funny. And yeah, I don't know. That could be something kind of goofy, especially like Halo. I would want to find though, like my old teammates that I would play Halo with, who I haven't talked to in a very long time, actually. I think it'd be hilarious to hit them up and be like, hey, I will buy you the game, and if if we can get on and just the conversations we would have, because that'd be hilarious. That was, I mean, way back when it would be this like high school, and it would be like Friday night, pack up all the gear, go play a show with all the friends. After the show, whoever's house was doing the LAN party, there'd be 16 of us, 4 TVs, 4 Xboxes, and we would play all night long. We'd go to 5, 6 in the morning, sleep, wake up, pack up all the gear again, go play another show, do it all over again. I mean, we did that for years, and it was hilarious because all the bands that we played with played too, and we were all together to play the show, and it was just kind of and back then that was before Xbox Live even existed, because I believe Halo 2 was the first one you could play online. But to prove that I'm a bit of a Halo OG, if you will, comment below if you know what, and don't Google it, but if you know what XBC is, and if you know what that is like going deep. But that was how I would play. Some pretty nerdy nerdy stuff there, but it was a lot of fun. And now you just turn on the game and it's right there, and you can select your game type. And I've been enjoying that. So yeah, let me know if you think that's the dumbest idea ever, or if that's if streaming is anywhere near something you might be remotely interested in, because now that I'm comfortable and consistently have been doing these every Monday, and then every Friday for our channel members, an additional hour, and now I'm kind of getting the clips together for those who just kind of want to like pass by. Maybe they're just like scrolling through and I just want to see a clip. But I'm having a lot of fun making videos again, which there was a long time where I was just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm really having fun and really inspired, and I just want to make more stuff because I'm learning a lot of this new technology and a lot of this new gear, and yeah, it's a good old fashioned situation here on this Titanic Sinclair YouTube channel. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you're doing well. It's going to be, I think, a pretty good week. We're looking at getting into the hundreds here in Texas. So you know what that means. Me not wearing shorts because I don't think they look good on me, and being hot anytime I'm not in air conditioning, but I love it. Summertime's just around the corner, and I've got a couple of trips planned, and I'm gonna document those as well, and kind of figure out a way to share that as I'll be visiting some pretty beautiful places. Thanks everyone for watching. Love you so much, and I hope that you're drinking lots of water, staying hydrated. And if you would be so kind to give a good old thumbs up, or maybe share a video, because I'm figuring out, again, YouTube's kind of changed since I was really paying attention to it, uploading daily. That was nuts, but it even in a couple of years, it's really changed a lot. So it's fun to see kind of like where people are finding this, and randomly these will just pop up in people's feeds. And they're just like, you're alive. So, but yeah, liking, sharing, all that jazz, definitely helps out. And yeah, that's gonna do it for today. You guys are the best. And I think I'm gonna probably put out another video, try something new this week, and then for channel members, we'll see Friday. Love you guys. Bye bye.